Good morning, Jason.
Hey, good morning, Kathy. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Look who I brought with me.
Oh my goodness, you brought your best boy, Nash.
I did.
Hey, Nash, how you doing?
He says, I'm doing great. I got to come with in the car. I love going for rides. I just like to be there with you all the time.
That's awesome, Kathy, because, today we kind of thought about talking about a very important subject, actually. And we couldn't do it without our superstar, Nash, here visiting us today. Thank you so much for being in the studio today, Nash. We did want to talk about all things, well, just to give you actually a quick tutorial on service animals and the fact that on all of our buses, SETD buses, we allow for service animals to be on our bus. And we thought Nash would help us explain that a little bit. There are differences. There are such things as service animals, and then there are comfort pets, or pets just the same. So that's what we kind of were thinking about talking about today, and we hope you will follow with us and learn something very valuable. But Kathy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's been really, it's always a good day when you get to bring your dog to work with you. And so, Nash volunteered to be part of the show. So, it's always good. And we're in person. So what could be a better day?
Yes, exactly. So let's just jump right in it and, talk about what a service animal is. And for those of you that don't know, a service animal is considered by the ADA, the Americans with Disability Act, as a working animal, or otherwise known as a service animal. They are trained to do very specific tasks. Mm-hmm. So, Kathy, if you have seen service animals work, what's one of the best examples that you might know of or even have witnessed before in the past of what a working animal or a specific task was going on?
Well, I would say the one that people think of the most frequently, that most easily comes to mind, are the dogs that help people that have vision impairments. So seeing eye dogs, those are the first thing that comes to mind when you think of a service animal for most people. I know that previously, in my previous life, so to speak, I also witnessed a service animal that was trained that you wouldn't necessarily know. The woman's vision was perfectly fine. She had seizures, and the dog would alert her to when it sensed that she was going to have a seizure. And that was fascinating because the dog would pick up all the different signals and all the different things that were going on and change just slightly with her behaviors and warn her that she had a seizure coming so that she could do whatever she needed to be safe.
And another cool thing is too, so we see that. That's easy to see, but there are other things too as well that aren't so evident. So for example, there are dogs that are trained, you would think would be a simple task, is to go get medication for people. You would think, oh, well, that's pretty easy. My dog goes out and grabs the paper every morning for me and stuff. But the reality is these dogs that are trained to do that, in many cases, they're trained to open up drawers. They're trained to open up refrigerators. And the key thing is they're trained to also know what to get. It has a very specific label. And some of them even have little bite, little guards on them so that the dog can go in there and bite that pill box or some sort of liquid form of medication and bring it to somebody. I couldn't get my dog to do that if I paid him at least half a dozen doggy treats for that. He just wouldn't do it. And I don't understand why my dog would not be able to accomplish the task of going to the refrigerator or going to go grab me some medication, or, quite frankly, there's even dogs that help crutch people too that are support, so you don't have to be blind, just maybe lack certain stability, and they're there with the rigid reins that help, and that dog understands there needs to be a crutch there. But I couldn't get my dog to do that, and I don't know why. I thought I trained him well. I thought I did things to help explain how important it is, for him to do certain things for me. But there's a reason that doesn't happen. And this is part of the show today, is what's the difference between a service animal and then what my dog is.
Right.
Is a loving, yes.
Well, but, as a segue, I would just say, Nash is wearing red. Isn't he a service animal?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, you would think that because he's wearing specific gear that might make him a service animal.
He's got a red harness on.
Yeah.
Is he a service animal? Is that all it takes?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As much as I love my dog.
Yes.
And as smart as my dog is.
Very smart.
And he will work for treats. He is not trained specifically to do any one task to help take care of me, other than to keep an eye on me, which is his general duty. That's just how it is.
So, service animals are, like Kathy said, are trained to do very specific tasks. We already talked about some of those tasks, and now we're into the discussion about how important even the dogs that aren't trained to do specific tasks are, and so forth. They're comfort animals. My dog I have at home, I have a beautiful black lab, and when I walk home or get home from a long bike ride or a long stressful day at work,
or even a trip out the driveway to the mailbox.
That's right, even a trip to the mailbox. I love to walk in and I feel better. I feel so much more secure. I really do. I feel much more secure. He's the best alarm system we've ever had, and he's so loving and he's so just shaking and happy to see me and so forth, and it makes me feel incredibly good. But I have to understand that if I were to try to go into a place of business, or if I were to try to board one of our SETD fixed route buses, that I wouldn't be able to bring him with me unless I had a pet carrier. And that, quite frankly, just doesn't happen very often. But that's
Johnny's
the idea.
He's a little big to carry around.
He is a little big. He is a little big. Nash is probably a little closer to the right size that you would think.
Even Nash is a little big. Nash is,
yeah.
Over 30 pounds. Yes, you need to be. Yeah. We need to put on your summer weight.
Yeah.
Because he's got his winter treat extra. Because, as I said, works for treats.
Yeah.
And he's very treat oriented.
So Kathy, the one thing, our bus drivers, they are required when someone tries to step on board with an animal, whether or not the animal is wearing what Nash isn't necessarily wearing a service animal vest, but some do have a vest that actually say service animal or working animal or working dog on there and so forth. But even with that, our bus drivers are supposed to ask 2 questions to allow an individual to get on the bus. And the first question is, simply put, is this dog specifically trained for a task to help a person with a disability? And that answer can be yes or no. We hope that most people say, no, this is just my pet. But a lot of people do say yes, though. And so that's the first question. And it's important that we ask that question because that's, number one, that we're allowed to ask, and we're definitely going to ask it. And then we have a second question, and it really wraps around safety on the bus. And so we need to have a basic idea of what the service dog is going to do to help somebody. So, like, for example, somebody who is having a seizure, the dog is trained to, in some cases, get up onto that person and to calm them down just by touch. That's a very specific task, and it's important. So when our bus drivers ask the second question is, what specific tasks are they trained to do? And that would help him out. So the driver would be able to turn around and see that, oh my gosh, there's an incident happening and we need to effectively help this individual stop the bus safely and administer any aid that's needed. So those are 2 very important questions. And Kathy, I don't know if you've ever seen that happen before or anything, but if we don't ask those questions, what do you think could happen?
Well, it's like we've talked about so often, it's important information and communication. And so we can help each other. If the driver doesn't know what the dog is alerting about, then they may just think that the dog is misbehaving or that you don't have them under control. But if the dog is alerting and trying to tell, those around it something or its owner something, then the driver, if they're clued in, then also knows how to help to respond, whether they need to get on the radio and call 911 or call 911 or, let somebody else know what's going on so that they can be the best help that they can.
Right. Some service animals are trained, specifically dogs are trained to bark and to make audible sounds to indicate that something is happening to their handler. And that is a very important thing. And if we didn't ask those 2 questions, or if we didn't have some knowledge as to what this dog is capable of doing, a lot of our bus drivers would just indicate, oh my gosh, this dog is acting up.
Right. Calm your dog down.
Calm your dog down and not address the potential emergency that is happening. So it's really important that when you are considering riding the bus with your service animal, that you are prepared for any those two questions and recognize that all that is designed to help us or help our drivers assess the situation and offer proper aid. But I'll tell you what, there are some amazing service animals. Our wonderful, loving members of our family. Yes. Oh, it's not a member of my family. Donnie, if you are watching this at home, I apologize. I didn't show that level of affection to Nash here. But you know, the nice thing is there are loving dogs that are out there. We are not excluding to talk about dogs that do help people. Like I said, my dog helps me greatly, helps reduce my stress and some of my anxiety and so forth. He's not specifically trained to help me in any specific task, but he does help me. I'm sure Nash does the same thing.
Absolutely, yes. At the end of a stressful day, the best thing to do is for me to hang out with my boy, right? Yeah. Yes. Hang out with my boy. At the same time, as much as I'd love to bring him on the bus with me, and I think that would be a really great thing for me.
It would be fun.
That doesn't necessarily make it a welcoming atmosphere for others. And so, you know, that's something to consider. And if somebody else has allergies or has issues with animals, that would then make the bus inaccessible for them. And so, you know, in being considerate in that way, I know that if I'm bringing Nash with me, I'm not going on the bus.
That's right. So listen, this show was designed really just to give you a quick excerpt of the differences between a service animal, a dog who is specifically trained to do specific tasks for you, and a comfort animal or a pet, one who is there for you, not any least, and who is there for you to help you get through the day in some cases and just provide you that great amount of joy. So there are very specific differences, and we wanted to make sure that we just had a short expert on what it was and why we, as a transit district, you know, have to follow specific you know, procedures and rules to help us keep everybody safe and to keep the appropriateness of an animal on board our bus and what that looks like. So Kathy, I don't know if you have anything else to say about Nash, but I tell you what, we could probably do a couple of shows one of these days. I do hope everybody out there, if you have further questions, maybe one day we might actually have an actual service dog on here if we can find the right individual who's willing to come on air and show us how they interact with their puppy. That would be great. But other than that, we just are thankful for the ability that Nash provides Kathy here, and that our other dogs provide us as members of the family and so forth. But thank you so much for watching us. And Kathy, I was kind of wondering, Nash, what is he? We didn't talk about what kind of breed he was.
Oh, so, you know, Nash, I'm going to date myself. If you see him, he's about the size and the look of a famous movie star.
Oh, yeah.
Of some years ago. And some people may recognize him and know that maybe his name should be Benji instead of Nash. But his name is Nash because he is not Benji. And this Nash in particular is a mix. He's a soft coat Wheaten Terrier and Otterhound mix. So yeah, the Otterhound is not the most frequent thing that people have heard of around here. But he's a very good dog is what he is.
That's awesome. Well, listen, if you are watching this show and you have some further questions, as always, with Kathy and I, we read our comments. We ask you to please comment below. And if you feel so inclined to go ahead and subscribe as well and share this video to others who you think it could be helpful to, which we hope is just about everybody. So thank you very much for watching this week's show, and we hope you have a great weekend and are very productive with whatever that you want to get done. As I know better weather is on the way. So
fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And you know, Nash, while he's on here, I'm sure would want to give a shout out to all his buddies and friends out there, whether you're near and he gets to hang out with you frequently or you're far away. He loves his people and his other four-legged friends.
Awesome.
He's that kind of a dog that he gets along with cats and dogs. He doesn't chase cats, and he just loves them all.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, Nash, for being here. We appreciate it. All right, everybody, you have a great weekend. Thank you very much.